you were talking about kind of the making perfect music essentially, but without skill. I think that it comes back to that man-made imperfection stuff. It's part of the reason why Elton's music, or what was the band? The lead singer really unfortunately was extraordinarily depressed, and he Nirvana. So
yeah.
I think the reason that the songs and tracks that people themselves create are so valued is because of sometimes of the pain that they're going through, and we can relate. I can relate to someone that's going through, maybe let's say I'm an ex-drug user, and there's a person that's talking about going through rehab. Eminem, for example, a lot of people could relate because they were coming through the same path. They were tough upbringing, and that's the soul aspect. But AI can't do that unless you program it in. I suppose it maybe could.
Oh, welcome to the trap that I set you. Right. Okay. Are you ready for this?
Go for it.
First of all, I agree that in the future, when it comes to music, the artist's connection to the audience is going to be more and more important. Okay,
Yes.
You're going to want to know their story, and you're going to want to understand whether they've been going through good or bad times, and you're going to want to see them live. That is the bit I think that AI can't take away. But the bit where we think we can read, if we don't know the artist's story, okay, we're just hearing the music through the ether, but we can hear the pain in their lyrics, or we can hear something that we really relate to in their lyrics. Many years ago, I went to an art exhibition, right? And there was this really weird painting on the wall. It looked like a childish drawing of a face, and it had loads and loads of words all around it, like this. Like random looking words, and people were standing around stroking their chins going, oh yes. It turned out the artist was there. And so I thought, this is a very rare opportunity to actually ask the artist what was going through her mind when she created this. Was this some sort of compression of a traumatic event? I really wanted to know. And so I said, what's the meaning of all these random words that are written around here? And she said, I don't know, just wrote some random words down. And I thought, and
yeah.
So I've done enough self-improvement courses as well to know that if you don't actually know the person that you are dealing with, everything that you read into what they do is actually your own stuff, right? It is your own, if you think that you're with someone, you don't know them, but you think they're being a bit of an arsehole, actually, you have no idea what's going through their mind. You are just seeing what pings your buttons, as it were. And when you think you see something in a painting, say, and you don't know anything about the artist, that's your stuff. And that's brilliant. That's fine. That's great. And a skilled artist will probably put stuff in that triggers a lot of people, So case in point, talking about my music album again, there's a song on the album called Five-Sided Heart, right? Okay. And in there, the AI came up with a verse that really moved me just randomly. And there's someone that's very close to me who struggles with life and struggles with the environment. It's a neurodiversity thing. So they find social situations pretty overwhelming, and it gets a bit too much for them. I think they're incredibly brave for being able to push through. There is a verse in this song which is about one of the band members finding the world too loud and everyone else crowding round, turning up the feedback, playing a chord and building them a protective cage. For me, that means so much. And it makes me think of this person, and it had no idea, and it's had no life experience, but it just hit on something. And I'm not saying it can always do that, but the way these things work, they do draw on, let's say, inspiration from stories and poetry and whatever like that. So I would argue, I think I'm in the minority, but I would argue that AI is perfectly capable of coming up with, let's say, good art. Thank you very much. Thus ends the lecture.
Yeah, no, but well, it does make sense. I think especially when you don't know whether it be a photographer and an artist or a music, if you don't know them, then there's
Yeah.
no story. So you're going to put your own story on the thing.
Exactly. And that's fine.
It's a little bit like
absolutely fine.
Yeah, and when you listen to, I mean, I've done it before. I've listened to lyrics in songs, and they're talking about breakups, and I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I went through. That's Matt. He must be singing to me, because it seems almost personal. And I suppose AI will and probably is able to do that now. I just don't know, how far do you think that will go? Because surely these streaming services, a bit like YouTube, if I start getting AI generated, surely I'm out of a job.
Yes. So, and that's why the streaming services, they're in a difficult position. I've heard that, let's take Spotify, for example, and I don't know how they actually think, but their business model involves keeping you on the platform as long as possible, just like any other social media site. If they have to pay royalties to artists to provide them with songs that keep you on the platform, that's a little bit of a loss for them. If they were to use AI-generated music, where there's not the same costs involved, but it has the same kind of effect. You know, you put some music on, it's in the background, you know, you're with your mates and stuff, so you're not really listening to the music, it's just there diddling away in the background. Do you really care what it is? It's just music and it's there, and it's lounge music or Sunday afternoon music. It kind of makes sense that they wouldn't mind if they had some cheaper music. I was in a restaurant a few months ago with my son, and the music that was playing over the tannoy, after a while, I started thinking, I wonder, this sounds a little bit like the music that I've been generating with AI. So I got Shazam, which is the closest thing we have to magic, by the way. I got Shazam to try and recognize the tunes, and it couldn't. And I thought, right, they're using AI music just as a filler in the background. And I bet there's no PRS payments, no PPL, MCPS, whatever it is that you have to pay. There's no licensing fees, or certainly not in the same way. And so, unfortunately, again, going back to me not being necessarily a fan of the human race, wherever we can cut costs, we will, because that's capitalism, baby. And as for how far it can go, I mean, that's a whole different conversation about how far AI can go, I think.
Well, the thing is, I think that when it comes specifically to let's say ChatGPT, right? It's feeding off of things that it already knows. It can't create it can't really create new things. I wonder how much of ChatGPT and AI models like that is just about data harvesting, because like the stuff
it's all about it. It's all about it.
Because the stuff 100%. That I've told, I had a guy on the podcast called Adrian. He owns Bark and Jack. It's a watch strap company, and he said he uploaded his key financials to AI and was just tell me what to do, and it did. But I'm thinking, surely it's taken that data and now the world knows, because then it can feed off of that data in other aspects of ChatGPT, in other people's codes.
Yeah. I don't know what happens now. There was a famous example of a very big technology company in the early days of ChatGPT who fed in their IP, their company details into ChatGPT, and it started popping up on other people's machines around the world. I don't think that happens now. I think we're a bit more aware about that. And so I don't even know whether the stuff you feed in goes into the training set anymore. I think they've done all the training that they can, pretty much. And it's all about, so the other thing I like to tell companies when I visit them and talk to them is they seem human, these large language models. They look like, because they're doing very human things, we might mistakenly think that there's a human type of thinking process going on in the background. You know, there's some critical thinking, there's some judgments that you can trust and stuff. And it's not that at all. It's all predictive text. And it's brilliant, right? The predictive text that we're used to on our phone, where it just suggests the next word in the sentence based on what you just typed, it's just that, but on a scale that's unimaginable. But that's all it is. And I'm able to show normally examples of where it then just makes stuff up, and that we call it hallucinating. I think that's anthropomorphizing it too much, because it's, again, that's kind of feeding back into this illusion that it's some sort of human that's just on some sort of trip at the moment. It's hallucinating. No, it's just making stuff up. It's confidently saying the next most likely word, and then after that, what word comes next is also statistically the most likely, and that could be true or it could be made up. Same with images. I don't know whether you've seen the comedy videos and images generated by AI where it's just got stuff wrong because it doesn't know what it's doing. And so it's achieved. I mean, it's passed the Turing test. I don't know if you're familiar with the Turing test. It's famous computer science tests suggested by Alan Turing. If you can't tell the difference between a human and a computer, if you're having a text chat with them, then that computer is intelligent. And that's been passed now. So you're having this conversation with this computer. It looks human, but it's just maths. But in order to achieve that level of conversation, it's had to do so much more work than a human ever has. It's had to absorb billions or trillions of data points, as we call them, in the training set. So it's had to look at so many more examples of good human language in order to be able to do that than a human ever would. So I like to think of AI as a slow learner, but it just does it really quickly.
If you guys enjoyed that clip, please do me a huge favor before you go and head over to our Into the Mind podcast official page, where we have the raw, uncut Into the Mind podcast, and hit that subscribe button. And the more subscribers we get, the more incredible guests we can get on the show. I really appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. And I'll see you all real soon.